You're watching Rurouni K95's movie review on Pulp Fiction. Hi, Ruronis. This is your pal Rurouni K95 here. Today's movie review, we get to cover a Quentin Tarantino movie. For today's movie review is Pulp Fiction. So, Pulp Fiction is a 1994 American neo-noir black comedy crime film written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, who conceived it with Roger Avary, yeah, whatever you want to pronounce it, starring John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Tim Roth, Ving Rhames, and Uma Thurman. It tells several stories of criminal Los Angeles. The title refers to the pulp magazines and hard-boiled crime novels popular during the mid-20th century, known for their graphic violence and punchy dialogue. So let's review Pulp Fiction. Let's begin. So, the narrative structure, particularly in Pulp Fiction, however, it holds out of chronological order and follows three main interrelated stories. The mob contract killer, Vince Vega, is the protagonist of the first story. Prizefighter Butch Coolidge is the protagonist of the second. And Vincent's partner, Jules Winfield, is the protagonist of the third as well. So the movie begins with a diner holed up by a staged by a couple that moves to the stories of Vincent, Jules, and Butch. It finally returns to where it began in the diner. There are seven narrative sequences. Three primary storylines are preceded into these intertitles, like prologue, the diner, prelude to Vincent Vega and Marcellus and Wallace's wife. Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife. Prelude to the Bonnie situation, and the diner, which is the epilogue. If so, as well, if the seven sequences were ordered chronologically, they would run about any types of sequences that partially, like 1 and 7 out of all of these, partially overlap, are presented from different points of view. Do sequences 2 and 6, according to Philip Parker. The structural form is an episodic narrative with circular events, adding a beginning and the end, and allowing references to elements of separate each episode to made throughout the narrative. Other analytics describe the structure as a circular narrative as well. Hitman Jules Winifred and Vincent Vega arrive at an apartment to retrieve a briefcase for their boss gangster Marcellus Wallace from a business partner Brett. After Vincent checks the contents of the briefcase, Jules shoots one of the Brett's associates, then disclaims a passage from the Bible before he and Vincent kill Brett for trying to double-cross Marcellus. They take the briefcase to Marcellus, but they have to wait a while. He bribes champion boxer Butch Coolidge to take a dive in his upcoming match. The next day, Vincent purchases heroin from his drug dealer Lance. He shoots up and then drives to meet Marcellus's wife Mia, who he had agreed to escort while Marcellus was out of town. They eat at a 1950s themed restaurant and participate in a twist contest. They then return home with a trophy. After the contest, while Vincent is in the bathroom, Mia finds heroin, mistakes it for its cocaine, snorts it, and overdoses it. Vincent rushes her to Lance's house, where they revive her with an adrenaline shot to her through her heart. Butch betrays Marcellus and wins about accidentally killing his opponent at the motel, where he and his girlfriend Fabienne are lying low and preparing to flee. Butch discovers she has forgotten to pack his father's gold watch, a beloved heirloom, and flies into a rage. Returning to his apartment and to retrieve the watch, he notices the Mac 10 on the kitchen counter and the toilet flush. Vincent exits the bathroom and Butch shoots him dead, leaving the gun inside. At this point, you guessed it, as Butch waits at a traffic light in his car, Marcellus happens to spot him. Butch crashes his car into Marcellus, leaving both of the men injured and dazed. After coming to, Marcellus takes a gun out, shoots at Butch, and chases him into a pawn shop. When Butch gains the upper hand and points the gun at Marcellus, but the owner, Maynard, captures them both at gunpoint and binds and gags them both in the basement at this point as well. By this time, Zed, a security guard, joins Maynard. Together, they take Marcellus to another room to rape him, leaving the Gimp a silent figure in a bondage suit to watch Butch. When Butch breaks loose and knocks out the Gimp with a punch, he is about to flee but decides to save Marcellus, returning with a katana from the pawn shop that he has, and killing Maynard. Marcellus Eves Maynard's shotgun and shoots Zen in the groin area, which you guessed is back seeing what's happening in Pulp Fiction. Marcellus informs Butch that they are even as long as he tells no one about the rape and departs Los Angeles forever. Butch picks up Fabian and on Zed's chopper and they drive away. Earlier after Vincent and Jules have killed Brett in his apartment, another man bursts out of the bathroom and shoots them at them wildly, but misses with every bullet. After briefly checking themselves for wounds, Jules and Vincent shoot him dead. Jules professes their survival was a miracle, which Vincent disputes as Jules drives at this point. Vincent accidentally shoots Brett's associate Marvin in the head, covering themselves and the car interior in in broad daylight. They hide the car at the home of Jules' friend Jimmy, who demands they deal with the problem before his wife comes home. Marcellus sends his cleaner, Winston Wolfe, who directs Jules and Vincent to clean the car, hide the body in the trunk, dispose of their bloody clothes, and take the car to a junkyard at this point. Meanwhile, several above all this at a diner, Jules tells Vincent that he plans to retire from his life of crime and convinced their miraculous survival at the apartment was a sign of divine intervention at this point as well. By this time, while Vincent is in the bathroom, a couple dubbed Pumpkin and Honey Bunny hold up the restaurant and demand Jules' briefcase, distancing him with its contents at this point. When Jules overpowers Pumpkin and holds him at gunpoint, Honey Bunny becomes hysterical and trains her gun on him, and Vincent returns with his gun aimed at her. But Jules diffuses the situations. He recites the biblical passage. He expresses ambivalence about his life of crime and allows the robbers to take his cash and leave. So Jules and Vincent leave the diner with the briefcase in hand at this point, if you will. So that's the plot and the summary about the movie Pulp Fiction. So the whole thing about Pulp Fiction is that this movie was released back in 1994 because the release date of the movie Pulp Fiction particularly was probably released at the Cannes Film Festival on May 21st, 1994, but it was released in the United States on October 14th, 1994 at this point for this movie, like Pulp Fiction, what it is. Because there are some narrative structures. I mean, what is it with narrative structures in movies? But that is the question, though. What do you guess for this movie, Pulp Fiction? So for the how they made the movie Pulp Fiction, however, yeah. So Quentin Tarantino wrote Pulp Fiction in 1992 and 1993, incorporating scenes that Avery originally wrote for True Romance. Its plots occurs out of chronological order. Most movies should have represent if it's in the right order on its chronological orders, and certain movies in general. The film is also self-referential from its opening moments, beginning with a title card that gives two directionary definitions of pulp. Considerable screen time is devoted to monologues and casual conversations with eccentric dialogue, revealing each other's perspectives on several subjects, and the film features an ironic combination of humor, strong violence as well. TriStar Pictures has reportedly turned down as the script was too demented. Then Miramax co-chairman Harvey Weinstein was enthralled. However, and the film became the first that Miramax fully financed. Pulp Fiction won at the Palme d'Or at the 1994 Cannes Film Festival and was a major critical and commercial success. It was nominated for 7 awards at the 67th Academy Awards, including Best Picture and won Best Original Screenplay. It earned John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson and Uma Thurman Academy Award nominations and boosted their careers. Its development, marketing, distribution, and profitability had a sweeping effect on independent cinema, with their credibility of how they did the movie Pulp Fiction as well. When Pulp Fiction is widely regarded as Tarantino's masterpiece with a particular praise for its screenwriting, the reflexivity as well, the unconventional structure and excessive homage and pastiche have led the critics to describe it as is a touchstone of postmodern film. It is often considered a cultural watershed, influencing films and other media that adopted elements of its style. In 2008, Entertainment Weekly named it the best film since 1983. It has appeared on many critics' list of greatest films ever made in 2013. Pulp Fiction was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, unlike has to the extent to many other certain movies in general. Two or less than the satisfactory results which creative that'll stand the test of time, particularly for Pulp Fiction as well. Besides, given in the fact that the filming, particularly the principal photography, commenced on September 23rd, 1993. The lead off-screen talented that had worked with Tarantino on Reservoir Dogs cinematographer Andrzej Sciula, film editor Sally Menke, production designer David Wasco, and costume designer Betsy Hyman. According to Tarantino, we had $8 million. I wanted to take it look like a 25 million dollar movie. I want it to look as an epic. It's an epic in everything, in intervention, in ambition, in length, in scope, in everything except the price tag. The film, he says, was shot on 50 ASA film stock, which is the slowest stock they made. How they made the movie Pulp Fiction. Then we use it as that it creates an almost no grain image. It's lustrous. It was the closest thing we have to 50s Technicolor. The largest chunk of the budget was $150,000 to creating the Jackrabbit slim set. It was built in the Culver City warehouse, where it was joined by several other sets as well as the film's production's offices. I mean, the diner sequence was shot in the location on Hawthorne at the Hawthorne Grill, known for the Gucci architecture. For the costumes, Tarantino took his inspiration from the film director Jean-Pierre Melville, who believed that the clothes his characters wore their symbolic suits of armor. Tarantino has cast himself in a modest role since he had in Reservoir Dogs at this point. And come to think of it, this is your typical movie that came out for the best film in the 90s, particularly for of how they made Pulp Fiction as well. So that's going to be it for my movie review on Pulp Fiction for today. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's my thoughts on this. When I first watched Pulp Fiction, I didn't know that how the chronological order of how the plot, how it starts in Pulp Fiction to explain what it is about it. If I get to cover one of the Tarantino movies, probably for some point at the most part, I guess. It's been a while since I watched the movie Pulp Fiction, I guess. Hope subscribe for content. My anime plan, link in the description below. You can share this video on our Twitter, Facebook. If you have Twitter, Facebook account, and all social media, be sure to give this video a thumbs up by clicking on the like button on this video. Feel free to leave in the comments in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RuRoniK95. Feel free to join my channel, especially if you're new to my channel. Hit the notifications bell button. Be sure to get notified because it's been a while since haven't done movie reviews, I guess. And I got another movie review next. What I have in mind here. Stay tuned for my next movie review. I got another Terence Hill and Bud Spencer movie, spaghetti western film, for tomorrow's movie review on Boot Hill. Until tomorrow, because it's the first movie review of 2021.